The only thing we got, where we left off with the grant applications was what dollar amount,
Judge.
yeah, sorry. The grant application, what dollar amount the fiscal court wants to set.
That, one of these things, and I don't know if this might be a good time to do it, but there is on one of the applications, one of the applicants weren't clear, and I didn't really think so looking at the figures before, but the Marshall County senior citizens assumed when they filled out their grant, and Emily ran the numbers now, that's what I was looking for. I guess they're at home on the dresser, but on their insurance that the county pays, like they do in Hardin for the employee there, they pay one person's insurance at the Marshall County Senior Citizen Center. The county does on their behalf, and since that they never see that money, they assume that wasn't going to be part of what we were looking for. So their request needs to be amended for that amount. Emily, do you have a copy of that?
No.
Okay. I don't either. I do.
This year, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 87 and some
Right,
change.
right. It was 87,750 or something like that. Yeah, that is correct. That was that, like the Hardin employee. It was the. But she did not realize when she was filling out her application that and request that since the county already paid it in part of the other line item.
Is that a county employee?
No.
No,
It's not.
no. But the county has, just like the other way, the county has always paid that on their behalf. That was part of it wasn't included in the direct subsidy to the Marshall County senior citizens as we have in the past. And another question I had along those lines, I guess, some of these applicants that I have talked to wonder how, and I'm not familiar, and I don't know that if the other commissioners are familiar, how are we going to distribute this money once granted? Are we just going to write them a check or direct subsidies like we do the senior citizens, or what is going to be the procedure, proposed procedure?
We talked about that. They could either have it where the grant dollars are set aside. They can come in based off their project. If it's large amounts, small amounts, they can present receipts, or the court can grant them the money and write them a check.
Okay, they can just ask for it all at once, one lump sum then.
It's whatever the court wants to decide.
Oh, okay, yeah, I knew that, but I just didn't know what was proposed. Okay, I'll get informed then.
We continued to get the utility bills, can we deduct some way that from their total?
I mean,
Possible?
I could post it to that, rather than posting it to utilities, I could post it to that special projects account, to the contributions account.
Okay.
That would deduct it automatically then.
It would deduct it from the amount as a whole. I'd have to keep a separate running balance of each one's
Either way, it's going to be very
obligation.
simple.
But
If that's the case, what about if you just take an average or the number from last year on the utilities and just deduct it? Instead of having to track it, and then you'd have to adjust each year that you offered them that grant. I mean, would that be
Yeah,
easier?
that's kind of why, I know you and I disagree a little bit on whether we should pay the utility bills or
Well,
not, but.
you know, I mean,
but-
I just,
yeah.
I'm trying to stay away from something happening and us losing control of one of our buildings.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about our county-owned properties.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, the only property that we own that we had an agreement with was Needline. I mean, we've got county-owned properties that we don't have any type of agreement. We don't know, if there's upgrades being done. We don't know what actually those entities are doing. My opinion is, I think anybody that's in a county facility, we need a contract with that entity so that we can lay out what they can and can't do, because it is a county-owned facility. As far as utilities, it would definitely help on our end, and I know their office, to where if the court grants these dollars to these applicants, they're responsible for paying their utility bills. That's gonna have them pay more attention to the utility bills, because none of these agencies that we've been giving monies to had no idea what their utility costs were. And I can tell you that we spent quite a bit of money on some of them. By doing that, they're gonna be more apt to pay attention to their heating bills and their utilities that they use, and they'll pay more attention to it.
Can you forward the bill? I mean, I just hate to not see, for us not to see them and us to know they're paid. If they come to us, we'll know they were paid. Can you forward them to them and just let them pay them through their organization?
You don't want to find out after the lines are frozen.
Yeah,
and-
I
and
know,
that-
yeah, I just don't want to find out that something
I do-
happened and they missed a payment and all of a sudden the meter's pulled and.
Right.
I do think that the utility companies would work with us as far as sending it to them, but if something happens and they haven't paid their bill and they can't get a hold of them, I think they could add us to the contact list as a secondary number or something like
They
that.
don't contact.
Huh?
They don't contact anymore.
Oh,
I mean,
I
the
think-
experience I've had, there's been
Even,
more
even
than
the local
one
cities don't
that have
contact anymore. They
accidentally,
used to,
that
but
have
they don't
accidentally
contact
missed,
anymore.
have missed payments. And they had a friend that contacted them, the one that I'm
Yeah.
thinking about. But otherwise, they were gonna pull his meter that afternoon, a customer that had been there for
They all
years.
used to do that,
Yeah.
contact, but they
Yeah.
don't, even the
That's the only
cities
thing.
don't
That's the
anymore.
reason
The
that
one-
I've been more concerned about it,
Yeah.
because they used to, they'd give you a month or two and call you and,
If we do a contract with county-owned facilities, we can put in that contract that those entities show proof that they're paying their utilities. And that way we can, as they pay their utilities, they give us a receipt or show.
just takes one night for them to pull the meter. That's my only
Yeah,
problem. In the
and
middle
the
of
last-
winter, it just takes one night, or gas to come in, turn the gas off, one night.
yeah, the
So-
last time we've had contact from a utility company was, Barbara Parrish was still there. It was towards the end of her time there, but it seems like Jackson Purchase for a while. I don't know whether it had to do with them or the mail or what it was, but we wouldn't get their bills until like the day before the discount ended, or it was the final date. And so there's been a couple of times that I had to run to Paducah to make that payment because they were gonna cut them off. So they used to contact us, but they may not anymore.
But, what I've heard, I haven't been in that situation lately, but
Yeah,
someone else has, and there was no contact. Wasn't gonna be any contact.
yeah. Witten Gas has called us
That's my
before,
only
but
concern. We're responsible, ultimately, we're responsible for the building. If it's a county asset. That's actually in that's the way it's written in our duties.
yeah, I think we could probably require some kind of receipt from them regarding payment and that's how, if you all choose to award a type of utility reimbursement, that they have to show proof, not show the bill paid with a receipt or a canceled check or something that tells us that it was paid, and then they could do kind of a drawdown on that grant after proof of payment. And we could funnel it through I'm sorry.
Most of our county buildings probably have gas and electric, or electric and gas.
Obviously, those bills, those utility bills are gonna vary from year to year and have, like this last winter that wasn't a bad winter, they were less than they were the year before with double-digit snow, so.
Yeah, because that's, on their applications where they requested utilities be paid, I mean, that's a projection. They're going off of
And that's all-
previous year.
Yeah, that's all they can do too, all expected, all that we should expect them to do.
I think it needs to be clear, I think we need to discuss if, those years where the utilities, those dollar amounts, whatever we set aside, anything above and beyond, how do we handle that? If there's X amount of dollars that we put in there for grant monies, to these organizations, and, they're paying their utility bill with the dollars that we give them, but then over the course of the year, they exhaust those funds, who does that fall on?
Well, they've sold, it may be a legal question, but in my mind, they have presented the need to us, and we have granted their request, so, I guess we would take responsibility for that.
Well, if they leave, I mean, that's the thing, if they leave, then we're responsible for maintaining that building at that point anyway.
Well, I mean,
That if they're out of funds, we've got to maintain the building. We can't let the power go off or.
sure, but what I'm saying is we set aside X amount of dollars for grants. These organizations present their applications to us. We give them X amount of dollars, and then they exhaust those dollars. It may not even be in utilities. They exhaust those dollars. I think we have to have that discussion as well. If you look at the grants, each entity gets one grant per fiscal year. And that's because I think to meet the requirement, we can earmark, that's the Attorney General's opinion, is we earmark those dollars specifically for those projects. I think it needs to be understood that what they request, they need to be responsible throughout the fiscal year to manage those dollars that are approved.
I don't disagree. Again, we've got to maintain our buildings. If they run out of funds and then we have to pick up the bills from then on, then the next cycle, we'll have to determine if they're a responsible organization and if we want to fund them or not. To me, that would be the only way we could manage it. We can't just, I'm not saying fund them, their activities, but as far as utilities and that sort of thing, we've got to fund that for our building, regardless of whether they run out of money or not. And then, like I said, next cycle, if they're not responsible, then they're not being responsible with their funds, then we just have to tell them that we can't support them anymore.
Yeah, that will,
I know that's after
think-
the fact, but.
Right, and I think an agreement with any county-owned property, I think an agreement needs to be drafted and outlines those concerns that we have as far as, in some cases, our responsibility to maintain them. All right.
What we could do, when you grant this, fund these grants, we can then issue a grant document for them that we require them to sign that would have all of our conditions in it on their use of that grant reporting and just whatever you want in it.
well, how many entities are we talking about in here, anyway? 1, 2?
It'd be 3, I guess, in my mind, I think, we're helping.
Marcellus Kitchen.
Marcellus and the
Needline.
seniors and
Black
South
Pack.
seniors.
No,
My whack pack, we've
Not
already
the
done.
seniors, the seniors own their building,
Seniors own their building, okay, and the South seniors.
yeah,
2 or 3.
yeah.
I guess Marcella's is. And Marcella's and Hardin's, that the only two entities?
Needline.
Well, Needline is, they own their building too, or will, and,
Yeah.
and 20, on the
Yeah,
20th,
true.
so that's a moot point
They're
there.
about to own their building. I think.
We want to go through each application.
I guess it'd be a good time to do this before that. This, on the application process, at the top it said like March the 14th when this process started. And the deadline for this is, it's marked out, it was June 15th, now it's June 11th, is that right? What is the,
Yeah,
on each of these applications, it says deadline for invoice submittal.
The biggest thing is that we don't want a receipt coming in.
Oh, I can understand that, yeah. But the reason I asked for this list yesterday of where these grant process, because this was my first Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock was the first time I'd seen this or able to discuss the program. And I got a list that Des printed and gave us at halftime, I guess, yesterday. And the explanation was it's what we have done in the past and so forth. And after reviewing the list, I was thought of some other entities that I would like to see, and especially in the district that I represent. And well, just one in particular was the Kentucky Sheriff's Boys and Girls Ranch, and went and visited with Jerry Wagner, the executive director of the Kentucky Sheriff's Association. Happened to be there because the counselors are coming next week, and the boys and girls that participate in that program all over the state of Kentucky are arriving on the June 11th for the first time, and certainly that they serve a public purpose. And I asked him and the girls to fill out an application, and they have, and I guess I will speak on behalf of them. They filled out the application and requested $2,000 and a brief description of services offered by your organization. The ranch is dedicated to redirecting the lives of children in Kentucky to build self-esteem, moral character, and teach them to respect each other and law enforcement. And the project that they would use this monies for, they have a generator that has been sitting on a trailer there for almost a year now. It was, well, I guess a year. That was there last year when we were helping them get open with the boys and girls last year. But they had contacted TVA and about a pad to put the generator on, to hook it up, the electricity and so forth. And the estimates were right at just a little bit over $2,000 to do so. And that generator that would provide to keep the place operating in case of a power outage when those children were there. They have no means to do that at present, and obviously they're on a shoestring budget like everybody else. But they have requested on behalf of the Kentucky Sheriff's Boys and Girls Ranch, the executive director Jerry Wagner has requested $2,000 for that project.
Well,
I'd like to submit and add to that.
Here's what I'm gonna say about this, because you're getting ready to open up a big can of worms for any organization that wasn't contacted.
That what?
If we do.
What'd you say? I didn't understand the first part of it.
For any organization that wasn't contacted. If we take after the deadline,
What is the deadline?
organization-
That's the first question I asked Judge. I said, what is the deadline? Wednesday, 3 commissioners saw this program for the first time. We had chances to ask questions and learn about the program for the first time Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock. On these applications, what we got Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock, that's the first question I just got through asking. The deadline for invoice submittal is June, and it's 15th, and that's crossed out, and it's put 11th. It's the 11th, and it was in May, and that was extended. And so that was the first question I asked before I read this application. The
June
deadline.
11th is the end of, we're talking about budget dollars for next fiscal
I
year.
understand that.
June 11th is not this June. It's next June. If you look at that and read that correctly, you'll see it's the end of the fiscal year. We don't want receipts coming in at the end of the fiscal year because we have statutorily requirements to get a budget approved. She's got bills to pay.
I understand all that, and that's another concern of mine. 3 commissioners Wednesday morning, this is the first we'd heard of this program. No communication whatsoever as far as the program is concerned. Not that we didn't try to educate ourselves, but the list right here is just a list, is one person. This is a 4-person panel of fiscal court, and, you know, we are the ones that approve these applications in this program, and we hear about it for the first time on Wednesday, and I have no problem with identifying these dollars. That's an excellent idea. Some of these things I didn't even know that we paid for Marcella's Kitchen. I think it's money well spent. It's a good project, and we need to identify these things, but we need to be able to communicate, and that's why I say we had no input in any of these, and every single one of them. No doubt every single one of them serve a public purpose, and every one of them are good organizations, but you know, I'm just a little disappointed that Wednesday is our first opportunity to ask questions or learn about the program, that the applications were put on our desk without any input from us.
The application process, there was no application process. Last year,
These are
the
all
dollars-
applications.
Last year, when the budget was approved by this governing body, there were no presentations for those dollars. If you look at the Attorney General's opinion, none of us could have articulated the ends versus the means as far as the accountability of taxpayers' dollars. The grant application solidifies that. These organizations fill out these grant applications.
That's exactly what I said. I said I agree with that process.
Okay.
But I also agree that when we did it last year, and these organizations that we're supporting, every single one of them, in my mind, I'm 100% sure that they serve a public purpose. Every single one that we approved last year.
And I've said it, and I'll say it, the public purpose, we talked about this the other day, is not in question. It's
I
the
know.
ends versus the means. It's not who gets the money, it's how those monies are dispersed. And that's the question that this court could not answer. More particularly, I could not answer. The one who's responsible for the ends versus the means.
We're all responsible.
Well,
The fiscal court is responsible,
Well,
not one person.
when I get asked how those dollars are spent, I couldn't answer that question. So the grant application.
We all agree the grant process is a good thing.
The grant
all agree.
application, all right, if you just listen, the grant application is a process that these organizations are filling out.
Right. And it's
How
good.
how that process is determined, we sat down and we said, okay, these organizations that have presented in the past, we'll contact them, give them the grant application. We knew that we're not going to contact every organization in this county, but we contacted those organizations. We set a deadline so that they could get those dollars in. We communicated with those organizations that were already in our budget that we were giving monies to. We communicated it with them, we sat down, we outlined everything. We got a stack of grant applications. What the fiscal court is sitting here over the past few days is talking about next year's budget. Now,
Yeah, that starts July 1st of 2017.
to go out
Is that not
and
correct?
to go out and find an organization and bring a grant application in, you're open up a door outside of what was
I
established.
disagree 100%.
An organization
100%.
that's out there that may have been on this list that chose not to participate, that will change their mind and come back. Weeks down the road.
This is for this applications right here, on this application form that the three commissioners saw for the first time on Wednesday and had a voice in this. Not that we didn't try before that date to educate ourselves, but we're not allowed to participate.
Well,
It says
hold on a
June
second.
1st, it says June 15th.
Hold on a second, hold on a second, and I'm gonna explain something to you, Rick. All right?
Well, you need to explain it to all of us.
The grant application, our budget workshops, all right, what you're failing to understand is that we have day-to-day operation requirements. These individuals work 40 hours a week. They have other duties,
I
all right?
understand that too.
We had a budget workshop scheduled, okay? Just because we can't meet your specific need when you want to meet, they have requirements. That particular date, she had a deadline to meet. We had a scheduled meeting where all of us are going to be present to go over this information. It's more efficient to sit down as a group, as a governing body. We notify the press, the media, and everybody, and we sit down and we discuss it. There's nothing wrong with that. So when you say that you're not allowed, you're totally speaking out of line.
I said until Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning, this process was not sold to any of these three commissioners. We saw the meats and potatoes of this thing for the first time Wednesday. And that's my problem. And you say we is us. We is a Marshall County Fiscal Court that approves these funds. 4 people.
That's right.
3 commissioners.
That's right.
And everybody should be on the same
Approves-
page in
approves-
education.
approves the
We
budget.
should not put the cart before the horse and go out. The reason that I tried to, and Commissioner Boland tried, and Commissioner Gold has been involved, because these people have contacted all of us. Some of these grant applicants were intimidated by the process, and they contacted me, and they contacted Bob, according to them, and they contacted Johnny, because they didn't know, and then.
Well, let's.
Well, what do we feel like when we don't even know what they're talking about?
And you know what? And that's where you need somebody to sit there and say, this is a process. We have a scheduled budget meeting. We'll discuss it in open court as a fiscal court. There is a process. We've communicated with them as well. The problem is that you're totally blowing this out of proportion, thinking
No,
that.
I am not blowing out of proportion.
Well,
I'm just responding to the needs of those people and organizations that have contacted me as a county commissioner with their concerns, and I don't know anything about the program, because the program, and I have no problem with identifying these entities and these dollars and so forth. I agree we need to do that, but we need to you need to communicate, the court needs, or whoever needs to communicate that to the commissioners and sell us on the idea before, that's putting the cart before the horse before,
I totally disagree with you. We presented this to you. Open.
Yeah, Wednesday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And this application process, these letters that came out to these entities was dated March the 14th.
That's right, because we have the day-to-day responsibility to get that information out to those organizations in a timely manner before we meet as a collective body. If you look at the budget, we discussed that there were allocated dollars in the budget. I mean, we're talking about the budget dollars for next year.
And we all
have
agree with
budget-
that.
We
We
have,
all want to be frugal with taxpayers' money. We just need to be communicated with and know the program instead of getting it Wednesday at 8 o'clock and then when we start the workshop.
well, let's look at, let's
With
look
no
at what's
education.
actually came out of this process that my staff has actually done.
I
You
know,
were-
that
you-
it is
In the process of
time-consuming. I
this,
realize
you were
that.
made aware of a lease agreement that nobody knew about. We corrected it. We're
That's
gonna
all
take
good
care of it. Now,
stuff.
listen to me, on the 20th, there are things that this administration has been doing, and we are presenting it to the fiscal court because that's the process.
I understand that, and I have no problem with that, and that, you are correct, that is a good thing. It is a good thing to identify these situations, but we need to communicate between the four of us of a program before, like I say, we had entities out there that came to all three of us, according to them, that were intimidated by this process. They didn't know the process. I didn't know the process. I don't know about the other two commissioners, but I had no idea.
We sat down and we communicated with those entities that were directly in our budget, and we explained to them what they needed to do. And actually, it was successful because they presented their applications. We sat down with those entities. The entities that were not in our budget, we didn't sit down with them. We sent them out the information and told them, this is the grant application. You need to fill this out. They didn't have any problems filling it out. And then when you
I
sit and
disagree.
you watch.
I know three of them
when-
did because they
when-
contacted me and Commissioner Gold and Commissioner Bolin, according to those sources.
And some of those entities that were in our budget had no clue what the dollars were for their utilities. They had to contact us. That is a problem when we're giving county dollars, county taxpayers' money to organizations, and they don't even know how much they're getting. We just resolved that. We sat down,
that
every
is a
applicant
positive. I
sat in that
agree.
chair, and they presented their application in court to you, and I think it was successful. It went all day.
We all agree with that. We all agree we need to be accountable. We need to identify these dollars and where they're going. Nobody has said anything about that. It's the way the process took place. You need to communicate.
Well, let
This
me
board needs to
just
communicate.
draw the line right now. Your opinion on how the process took place and how the process actually took place, here we are. We got the grant applications. We're here talking about the budget for next fiscal year. It's an open court. It meets statutory requirements, policies, everything.
I understand that, but.
It's your
But it
opinion.
lacks communication, and I don't think I'm the only one that thinks it lacks communication.
The entities that had approached me and had questions, I referred them to the judge's office, and they in turn applied. Because I didn't necessarily know the process either. It's been contained, the majority of it in his office. I felt like that was good enough, and that I would learn the process as we go
You were behind those doors
through.
with the deputy judge executive when all this was going on too. You were privileged to those meetings, which we were not.
Let's get something straight. There are day-to-day operations,
I know,
Rick,
this
that is our responsibility. That's what we're here for. She works
This
40
is our
hours.
responsibility too.
And
these
you're
three
sitting here.
commissioners-
You've been sitting in these budget workshops. You are the fiscal court. We have presented everything that we do for this governing body.
But do you think it's fair to present a program Wednesday at 8 o'clock with a pile this big of applications and start explaining the program to three of the four people that vote to approve that or not, and these dollars? We've had from Wednesday, Tuesday, we had an all-day budget workshop. Wednesday, we got into
Well,
this. That is not sufficient time
I'm
and
going to be
communication
the
to do
other
that.
side of that. Do you think it's fair that you approve hundreds of thousands of dollars on projects you don't even know the details of? In the Attorney General's opinion, to be able to answer how those monies are dispersed. We didn't have that
established
answer.
from the get-go, Judge.
And we approved that budget
We all
last
think
year.
this process needs to take place. We need to identify those dollars. I'm just talking about the communication or the lack of communication with these bodies. When when these entities, some of these entities contacted not only me, but the other two commissioners, according to them, they were intimidated by the process. Some of them were in tears, the process, as they told their boards. I witnessed two of those instances after I was contacted to try to educate myself because I didn't know anything about the program. I tried to come to a public meeting.
We sat
in this
down.
building right here
We sat
Monday,
down.
2 weeks ago.
We sat
and
down.
It was moved to your office, and we went downstairs to do
You're-
so.
now, see-
and we were asked to leave.
You're talking about a totally different meeting.
I'm
Let's
not.
stay focused
There were
on
three
this
of
right
these
here.
entities that contacted us.
That was not a meeting regarding these grant applications. That's where you made the mistake. It takes
haven't made any mistake.
it takes the
I
responsible
told you that I was
individual, if they
there on
reached out
behalf
to
of those
you
applicants that
to
asked
explain to
me
them what was explained to
come.
you. We are going to have a meeting, and here's the meeting. And the process has been open. The day-to-day operations is the responsibility of this administration. We've done it, and we've presented it. What the court has to decide is if that $158,000 that was in the budget, if it needs, what that dollar amount is. That is why we're sitting here today. We have to determine how much the fiscal court is going to earmark based off the Attorney General's opinion for nonprofit organizations. It's that simple.
And we get the information Wednesday, and we've got to, like I say, we need communication in this body that at least in some form or fashion starts. If this process started, whether it's a day-to-day operation or whatever, we make that decision for people, make that decision on March the 14th on these applications that were sent out to these entities that identified, however they were identified. We need to be made aware of that. From
May
Wednesday
1st.
to today is not a whole lot of time to do that. When we have when we had obligations yesterday and at the state park for 5 hours yesterday and 3 hours Wednesday night before, after we get them, that's not a whole lot of time to.
I participated as well. I think that
But you
missing.
had an ability to go through that since March 14th. We did not.
Well,
We did not.
When we presented the budget May 1st to you all immediately identified that those funds were no longer in that same location. We communicated that we had moved those funds, they were still budgeted, but we had moved them into another line item, and that there would be some type of a grant application process.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, and you know very well from our conversations after the budget was presented to us, that was on a Friday at a special call meeting. After reviewing for 5 hours on Sunday and 6 hours on Monday, I called you on Tuesday and asked, I had just like I did the year before, did I not? The year before that? Multiple questions. I asked a ton of questions every time. Try to be prepared and educate myself and be frugal with taxpayers' money so that I will be able to make an informed decision. Well, I call you to try to set up something to talk, and we did so. And then I get the response that the next day when that conversation or that meeting didn't take place, that the judge adamantly told you not to discuss the budget with me,
Negative.
Bob Gold,
We are
Johnny
having a
Bowen,
budget-
because it was a waste of your time and you were too busy to do so.
That
Is that
is-
not exactly what you told me? Exactly, word for word. I asked you 3 times that day, and I wrote it down right here, and I asked you,
You asked me, can I quote you? And I said, yes, I was told
Okay.
that we would discuss this as a body. That's
Right.
what the judge told me. We would
Right,
discuss
and
it
then
once.
Emily
together.
called back and
Hold
stated
on a
that the
second here.
judge adamantly
Hold
told
on a
her
second.
not to discuss the budget with me
This is-
or any of
this
the
is
commissioners,
getting-
that she was
Hey,
too busy
Rick.
and it was a waste of her time.
Rick,
That's
let me explain
not-
something to you. There is no way that I would say that. We had a scheduled budget workshop. We sat in open court. We identified 5 dates. She had a deadline to meet. We were going to discuss as a governing body. Those particular details we were gonna discuss as a governing body. When you got your agenda, when the budget was presented, as she said, it was discussed. And we explained to you, yes, the nonprofits, we're dedicating a whole day. We just sat from 8 o'clock till 4:30, okay? If that's not enough time, and we dedicated a whole day, we even built in extra days for the budget workshop so that you would have time. You're trying to make something that you're not being, the commissioners are not being involved.
That's right.
Here's something that you need to understand. The budget, by statute, I'm required to present to you a budget. I could have presented
We
the
know all
budget to
that.
you.
That's a process
And
that
then
every county goes
the
through.
next
We know
meeting,
that.
we didn't
And we've
have to
done-
do workshops. I could have presented the very next meeting, the second reading for the budget. Your only authority would be to vote no or yes. That's it. But I
Well,
didn't do that.
That's not due process, and that
I
wouldn't take
didn't
place, and
do
that's not
that.
accurate because four
We
people
have
make the decision to
five-
pass that budget, not one.
We have that's not what I said. Statutorily, I am to present a budget to you.
Correct.
Read it.
Correct.
The second
I understand
reading,
that.
I could just present it to you. I wouldn't have to do a budget workshop with you. You know that.
Right.
I've got 5 scheduled dates to where we sat down. We got an
And
agenda.
we got our books out and agreed to, and it takes
And
every
we
bit of
have
those,
started
and that's
down.
a good thing.
We've got a process that this administration
that's a
put
good
in
thing.
place. You want to go outside that process, and I made that decision. We're going to be meeting, we're going to be discussing it. We met with the entities that were directly involved.
We
What we
is
need-
not this body, though. We had to go through, and that's why we schedule those the budget workshops. We is you and your deputy judge executive and your treasurer that met with it. We is not us. And we did schedule those budget workshops.
We
And
scheduled-
we should, and we do that process every year, which is
Out
a
of
good
my
thing.
office, I scheduled meetings with those entities because they
Mm-hmm.
were already in our budget. We approved last year. They were going to be directly affected.
Oh, well,
I
now
met
we're
with
talking, now
them.
we're switching the
I
subject here now.
explained to them what they needed to do, the application process.
We're changing,
We
kind of
already
changing
had.
gears now.
We already had the budget meeting scheduled with the fiscal court. There are multiple things that go on a day-to-day operation that you do not have statutory, there's no statute that says that you are to be responsible for day-to-day operations. When I say me, that's my responsibility because I do have a statute that says the judge executive has the responsibility. If I fail to do that, they're not going to come to you. They're going to come to me.
I agree with that, but we have
So
obligations too
your
in spending
allegations
taxpayers'
on
money.
how I do my day-to-day operations, here it is. We've got the grant applications. We've communicated to those entities. It has been presented to you based off the statute. We actually went above and beyond the statute, Rick. We've got 5 or 6 administrative
I don't disagree, Judge, one bit about that.
codes. So when you say communication, I am following not only statute, I'm informing you as elected officials what's going on.
But now, in regard to that, us getting the applications at some point during that process, a copy or a summary of what's being asked for, wouldn't be against your, would not be in opposition to your responsibilities. I mean, you're not responsible to do that, but if we receive those earlier than the other day, so we could review them or set up, so
That's
we could
all I'm trying to
review
say,
them
period.
ahead of time.
Well, Bob, let me explain this to you. There is nothing in this application that is a surprise to you, is it not? It's actually even more detailed. We approved the budget last year, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Over 3 years, we've spent over $500,000 with no details of any projects, no presentations. No one came in front of this governing body and asked for those monies. We did it because that's just the way it was always done.
And
This application, hang on, this application is even more detailed. There's nothing in this application, and I would love for you to explain to me that that is a surprise, that would catch you to make you think that there's some type of discrepancy of communication.
No,
This is a
I-
very well.
I am not saying that
and here's the
anything's
other
wrong with
thing.
the process.
This application, I've communicated with council, he even supports it. Other counties use it. We've actually filled this
It is a
application out.
good process. It is
to
a good
request dollars
process. We
from-
have said that, Judge, over and over and over again this morning. Before this morning, we've said that. In other meetings, we said that. Nobody has any problem with that. It's just the lack of communication.
There is no lack of communication. I can tell you, I've already gone over this. It's an opinion. It's your opinion and.
Well, what's
my-
not an
my
opinion, Judge, is, and I told Emily to write this down, and it was said, and either she misquoted you, but I'm going to ask her one more time, because I have a grave concern at budget time with the treasurer's office making that statement to anybody. Any Marshall County taxpayer that comes through that door should not be told it's a waste of my time and I'm too busy, and much less 3 commissioners at budget time. But I asked her 3 times to repeat that, did I not, Emily?
You asked me multiple times to repeat it.
Right,
Can I remember
okay.
exactly what my words were?
Okay,
No,
and what did I say to you? I told you the 3rd time, I said, the reason I've asked you twice is I'm writing it down. Emily called back and stated that the judge had adamantly told her not to discuss the budget with me or any of the other commissioners, that she was too busy and it was a waste of her time. And the 3rd time I suggested,
Well, I can tell you that
apparently you didn't do that.
I can tell you that I didn't say that. I can tell you that.
Well,
that
Emily told me that you did say that and would not have discussion with me, and we tried to set another meeting up on Friday, and that's when you called back and made that statement to me.
I would
And I
even
can't believe that
question.
you're sitting here and telling me, you know good and well that you told me that that's what he said, and that's why you
Well,
didn't discuss it.
here's the problem I got.
That is a tremendous
I've said
concern.
very
to me.
little because you won't
Hang
let
on,
me
hang on.
speak.
Yeah, hang on.
You
Here's
did
the
say
here's the
that to
biggest
me.
problem. Here's the biggest problem, Rick. Anytime with this budget, did you call me? Any one of
Did
you?
you call any of us,
Did any,
Judge?
the budget, if there was something about the budget, did anybody call me?
We
I've sat in
needed
here
budget time to talk to
and
that
talk
lady right
about-
there, the treasurer, the county treasurer. She has all the
But the
figures. You don't
statute
have all the
doesn't say,
figures.
the statute doesn't say the county treasurer presents the budget, it says the judge executive.
And
Did
and
you-
and you
did you
did
call
so.
me?
And you did so.
Did you
and
call me?
from that point, from the first reading to the second reading, that's question and answer
Anytime that
time, that's
this budget
homework
was
time.
presented, have you
And we
called
should
me?
be able to have communication with our county treasurer to, that process is exactly as you said. The first, but you are by law present us a budget, and you did so. And we
We're-
had the first
we're not
reading without
accomplishing
discussion or
anything.
communication. And between the first reading and the second reading, that's when we do our homework and we see if these figures in here are going to work for us, because we've got to approve how these taxpayers' dollars are spent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when I go to the treasurer and get that, and
Here's the thing, again, the statute, the budget was presented to you, okay? You got the budget.
yes, I did.
And
all
we
did.
scheduled 5 budget workshops so
budget
that we would
workshops.
go line item by line item
Sure.
over the budget.
Yeah, we
So
did.
We're going to move on because it's an opinion. Your opinion.
No, it's not opinion. It's factual. What she told me that you said, and I gave her 3 opportunities
just
to
sat and
change that
told you
with no communication between this point and that point.
That is not what I said. I said we have a budget scheduled, and we're going to, the body's already scheduled. We have an agenda set up.
So you have no problem with us talking to the county treasurer at budget time or any time, like I did the year before and the year before that?
When you're talking about the budget, this is something that was new. This was the grant application.
Oh, we're changing, we're talking about communication. We're not talking about the grant application.
That's what the request was for, was the grant application. The grant application we had set for the budget workshop. And the nonprofits, we had an all-day scheduled
We're not talking about
day
that.
with.
We're talking about
That's
communication
what
at
that-
budget time with commissioners.
That's what the phone call request, as far as I was told, was about. You wanted to sit down and go over the nonprofit,
No.
the grant application.
Absolutely
and
false.
we have a
Absolutely
budget
false.
workshop
The budget
scheduled
in
for it.
general that I had marked and in this first budget, and even though we're on the third budget now, I had marked like 73 different questions that I asked as we went through here, and a lot of them could have been avoided if I would have simply been able to do like I did. Did I not do that the previous year? Did I not do that the year before that? Ever since I've been here, the third budget I've been
There
here.
was no statement out of my office that you were not to have access to the treasurer regarding the budget.
Well, I'll put my hand on a stack of
The
Bibles, and
agenda that
Emily knows good and well, because I had to repeat it three times and wrote it
Now
down
you're
word for
asking
word.
me, and I'm telling you, that's not what was stated out of my mouth. Everything that I have done has been open, and it's been presented to you. The nonprofit organizations regarding the grant application is what I was told was requested. We had a agenda
That is
set and a
not
budget
accurate.
workshop.
That is not accurate.
Well,
Did I not say, Emily, that we got the budget had the first reading, which is statutory, it's the judge's budget, in between the first and second reading. When I called you on that Tuesday to set up that meeting, we started with text, then I contacted you, and we set up a meeting for Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And you didn't answer when I called, and I thought, well, that's okay, because I told you that no big deal, we got 2 weeks to do it, and you said you couldn't Tuesday, so we set up Wednesday, and Wednesday I said, if something comes up, no problem, we got 2 weeks to do it. I just got a bunch of questions that I'm sure the other commissioners don't have, as I did the year before and the year before that. And then on Thursday, we called back, and I said, let's try to set this up again. And you said, well, I can't, I'm slammed till 2:30 or 3 o'clock. So I said, no problem. You got a couple of weeks to ask those questions. So then Friday, we set up for Friday at 9 o'clock to go through that and me to ask the questions. Well, I called back then, and after we'd set it up at 9 o'clock, and 30 minutes later, you called me back and you repeated. Emily stated that the judge adamantly told her not to discuss the budget with me or any of the commissioners, that she was too busy and it was a waste of my time. And 3 times you repeated that to me. The third time, so I could write it down word for word, and I suggested to you that you write it down word for word because you would have a chance to repeat that in open court. Period. I'm
I was-
100% sure that's because I wrote it down. I didn't leave it to memory, and I suggested to you wrote it down. Do you not remember me suggesting that?
I have a lot to do, and every word I say is not something that I'm too concerned with. What was happening at that point was we were working very diligently on the Chestnut Creek project. We had a serious deadline.
I understand
What
it's slammed
he-
at budget time.
what
I
was
understand
meant
that. And I said,
was-
no problem. Let's do it 2
will you
weeks,
let her,
3 weeks down the
let her
road.
finish. She's trying to answer your question, Rick.
She knows what the answer to my question is. There's no doubt in my mind.
What was meant was that we had a scheduled time to discuss this. The judge told me he wanted this process to be transparent, that he didn't need answers from here and there and everywhere, that this is his budget and he needs to be the one to answer those questions. I remember I did tell you that. Now, if I said those exact words, there was something to that intention. Whether they were exact or not, I don't know.
That is
It's-
exact.
Okay. Whatever makes you happy. But I am busy. I'm very busy.
I understand that too, especially at
and if
budget
we were
time.
if we're going to discuss that it was, I think, the next Tuesday. It wasn't a long time. But if we were gonna have that discussion anyway in court, in this environment, why not just have it once? So that I can answer the question once for one body versus 4 times for 4 different people.
Okay.
That is what I felt like the intention was, that it kept it clearer, it kept it more transparent, that's what the intention was. It wasn't that I'm not allowed to speak to you regarding this. It was at that time, we had the Chestnut Creek thing that we had to get submitted.
I understand that.
I was having to work with
And
Maggie
I didn't say that
and with
meeting had to be
Tracy.
done that day.
All right.
I said, we've got 2 weeks before.
It's 9 o'clock. We haven't accomplished anything. We need to establish.
Well, I think we need to, and I've waited till Emily to get through with hers. Along those lines in there, when the first time you told me that on Tuesday, then you said, well, Brad may want to, but the judge may want Brad in there. Do you remember saying that? And what did I say? I said, I don't care who's in there. I just have the questions like I did the year before and
But
the
we
year
can
before
ans-
that.
We've had sessions to ask those questions and to answer those questions, and I hope you have gotten answers that you want. What he's stating is that this is the opportunity to do that.
I understand that. I understand that.
All right.
But I like to be informed and educated when I
Well,
come to these meetings and ready to go.
we're not accomplishing anything here.
We are accomplishing something. We're
We've
clearing
got
the air on
scheduled budget
communications and the lack
workshops
of
that we need to be
communication.
discussing business.
I understand
That's what
that.
we're here for. Your
But
questions that
this
you have,
situation
now's
is
your
totally
opportunity
unacceptable.
to answer any questions. We've had budget workshops, any questions that you have, I mean, now's the time.
What were
and-
those questions? I don't think I've heard you ask 78 questions.
We do what now?
What were your 78 questions?
I marked them down.
Let's answer 'em.
I have gone through every single one of them. That's why I brought the first budget. I have got them highlighted in the first time we're on our third budget now.
Let's go. What are we waiting on?
But I have asked those in those work sessions through there. I have asked some of those questions in
So you
there.
have your answers?
I asked the majority of the questions the first day there.
In workshop?
In the workshop I did.
Okay,
All right.
good.
But when you and after that conversation, and like I say, I left, after I talked to you, I called the county attorney and had the conversation with the county attorney and the assistant county attorney because I was alarmed to get that kind of answer. And the assistant county attorney repeated to me, but also during that conversation, you said the judge was adamant, but you also told me that I'm not going to listen to what he says because I think it's my
I
job.
said I am not comfortable not denying anyone information.
Correct, and right
What-
you should be. And my response to that was, I would hope you would not make that statement to
Well,
any
here's-
taxpayer that comes to the
However, you
treasurer's
weren't
office.
denied the
Hang on,
information.
hang on,
We
hang
just
on,
said a
hang on.
different schedule.
Listen, here's the problem. If you want to talk about communication, if you want to talk about, you didn't call me.
I'm talking about lack
You-
of communication.
You didn't call me. I would have told you, you would have got it from me. I would have told you that we had everything scheduled. There was no communication. I've been saying this in open court for some time, that the communication that you're talking about, it involves me. No one calls me.
No, this involves the treasurer. She has the numbers. That
That's
is her
his
job as
budget.
Marshall
It-
County
it-
Treasurer. You don't have the numbers, facts, and figures that I
let's
get
just-
for
let's
her
just-
daily.
The thing is that everything has been open, it's been prepared, it's been presented, and now's the time. You've had access. I've gone above and beyond what the statute requires to give you guys the information. And all that has been outlined, and
Agree.
that's just come down to opinion. You have a totally different opinion.
And I've made my
and-
case about as well as I can make it, I think, and.
So then
and-
let's-
And very
let's-
accurate, word for word. that
Let's
I got
move
it down.
on. Now it's 5 after 9, and we still haven't identified a dollar amount, which was scheduled for today, a budget, for these grant applications. Do we have a dollar amount of what, 158,000 is what was allocated? That 158,000, as we stated before, was over a 3-year average of what has been approved to nonprofit organizations in the county. You've seen the grant applications. Some of those grant applications requested actual financial support. Other ones have requested rent. And I think it's my understanding, based off the fiscal court meeting that we had when CASA presented, would be that the allied services and CASA would have rent-free space here at the courthouse. Allied's already here. CASA would be a new member to the courthouse, but we have available space that we can give those organizations. Is that something that the court agrees on,
That no charge, right?
right.
I agree.
That, at $1,800 is not an actual, figure that we would be given to those entities. I mean, we all agree on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then you have the Veteran Support Group and Mr. Chandler. Those,
Now, that is, they take advantage of our, that janitorial.
Office space.
Yeah, they get the space and we take care of all janitorial. They don't have any, all they gotta do is show up.
right, and we can have an agreement with them as well as far as,
That's what I was getting at.
yes.
Yeah, they-
I would even
Yes.
suggest that any time we offer government space or buildings, we have an agreement, kind of like TVA does with us with our
Yeah.
access
And that'd
to
be
the.
for a 12-month period.
Yes, and we can look at it each annual date, that way.
And we're considering we would consider our value on that as $500, and they're getting it free of charge. So
$150
A month.
It was
$1,800 a
18,
year.
yeah, the Allied,
Okay, that's right.
Allied presented, I
That's
think,
that
in
one.
2015, and the court approved 150,
Okay,
so.
that's fine. I don't know where I got that
They
number.
they'll be required to supply their own telephone or telephone line. if
But the
they
cleaning
need it,
service,
but-
obviously, we're gonna provide the cleaning service.
Yes,
It's
but
part of that
cleaning,
rent.
electric,
That's what
heat,
I
all
understand.
those things would be provided within this building.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good point. I didn't realize that.
The Veteran Support Group and the Chandler's application, those figures we discussed, those dollar amounts were already earmarked for supporting the veterans' calls. So I think it was discussed, the Veteran Support Group has a board. They're already established. And those funds, if approved, can go through that organization. Each group has a member. Each veterans group in the county has a member present on that board, and they would manage how those monies are dispersed.
And Robert
So,
Chandler has no problem with that, as he told
Yeah, he
us.
said
So
it's
that, and
in
so
here and
we're
said that-
talking about one
Not-
$3,000
Not
increment.
6,000, but
instead of three.
3,000.
I
Yes,
would-
that, he was, Robert was comfortable with that.
I think if we are going to move those responsibilities to that board, that we should move the balance June 30th of that fund to that board.
Well,
I
yeah, I
don't
think
think
that's.
Robert
Close
has
that
any,
account.
Robert doesn't have any problem with that either, and as long
Right.
as that's work, we don't know if that's gonna work because it's something new, but he assumes and has faith that it will, and so if he's comfortable with it and Mr. English is comfortable with it, then certainly I'm comfortable with it.
So do you all want to do the balance at June 30th?
Yeah, because you got commingled dollars in that account, so.
Yeah, we need to clean it
would
up while we're
be
cleaning
best
up.
that all those dollars would go.
Yeah, I don't think we should just limit it to 3,000, because there probably would be some left in that account.
In the Veterans Van Fund account.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this, if there's monies left over to move over, can we take 3,000, is that gonna clean up that $3,000? Are we just gonna, can we move that over?
It was $4,066 in there,
So,
but he does have that $400 bill that we haven't yet paid. So it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 3,600. However, we also have a transfer, because we have not made our $500 contribution this year. So it would probably put it back up to around 4,100 and some change.
so really, we're not spending $3,000 on their behalf. We're just transferring 2,500, that was that CD from private donations, so we really, that's $3,000 we're not spending if we so choose just to transfer.
Well,
Is that right?
Was that the intent of this?
The intent is to get those dollars to that organization.
Yeah.
And that
it's
needs to-
for
And we're
you-
gonna continue to look, because we may have, I thought they said McCracken was voting, it's possible that those dollars will come in. And we're gonna
There may be
continue to see
additional
for
dollars.
other dollars coming in.
Yeah,
what's
yes,
our
if any of
actual-
those, funds come in, we would forward them to the veterans.
What's our actual commitment then gonna be? That's,
And that's the
If we
appropriate
transfer,
question.
we don't even need the $3,000 because that's more than they've
So if we
requested.
transfer it as our commitment, basically for next year, then gonna be the 500, is that, would that be it?
That is technically our contribution at this year, would be 500. And that's what our contribution has been, minus a couple of years where they ran short and we received less
Yeah, a little
donations.
bit, yeah. I mean, certainly that's, I mean, my intent would be to transfer that, if we're gonna use that group to make that transfer, which would be whatever it is at the end of June.
And next
And
year,
then our commitment would then be, I don't know, is our commitment gonna be another $3,000? Is that not, that's not what I'm hearing exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either.
We're gonna look for other donations, so our commitment next fiscal year would be $500 at this point. And it's always, is that not right? I mean,
well, that's a good question, because what I'm talking about is gonna happen this fiscal year. So, because if I give them the balance as of June 30th, that's this fiscal year,
yes.
not next
That's
fiscal
that'll be
year.
but that'd be a vote, that'd be by a vote of the court, wouldn't it, before the end of the year?
Yes.
Well, does it matter if it's next year that we transfer all the funds?
It just keeps that fund open next year that is gonna have one transaction in it and then closed out. But,
It'll pop up on your reviews.
So closing it out the end of this fiscal year.
yeah, it would be cleaner as far as next year's books, but it's not a big fund, it's not a big problem, so either way.
So, and then if we did that, then they would have their funds that were dedicated to them, and there wouldn't be any contribution technically in the budget for next.
Well, I mean, the next one would be
Or-
the 500
yeah,
that
next year we
we've
could-
committed in the past, plus requesting other counties to commit, and then we'd see what we get in. That,
Those letters were sent out, and how many have we received for this?
We had two as of Wednesday,
Fulton and,
Fulton and Graves.
then they'll go out next year. They'll possibly
Right.
be in this cycle.
Well, they're doing the same
In-
thing. Those
in-
counties
in
are
the
doing the
next
same
budget
thing we are.
cycle.
They're in the budget process, and I would assume that they're right where us, and those other two
letters that sent out was for this
completed the
budget year
budget.
that we're
Okay.
Yes, and
They
there'll be
hadn't
another, but there'll be
awarded
another
them
one for
all.
next year. That's what I
Yes,
mean.
well,
There'll be
how about
another.
this solution? We'll get them a check as of probably June 20th. I should be able to know that closing balance. We'll vote to close that account, remove the money to the support group, and then we can budget into next year's contribution, the grant process, the $500 that we would normally do. So then in July, or whatever time period, we would write the veteran support group our $500 check to them.
For 17, 18.
For 17-18
Right.
fiscal year, but he would continue to send out the letters to the other entities requesting their
Right.
support as well.
And we'd amend that
And then we
in.
would, yes, we'll amend that in and forward those funds to the support
Yeah, I
group.
mean, that would be another thing. We wouldn't amend them in because they're not in the
Well-
budget. We'd just have to transfer them on.
Yeah, either he can request them and then be mailed to him, and he can take them to the support group. Either way, I mean, they could make it to the Marshall County Fiscal Court in care of the veteran support group.
Just so we
Something like
continue to
that,
have
just so that they
some,
get the
you know,
money. Yes.
You know, the judge's office continues to have some, some input because
Yeah.
they'll
So,
carry more weight than them, just
Mm-hmm.
the support group asking for it would be possibly not as,
Weight bearing,
wouldn't carry as much weight as the judge's office. Okay.
okay. Is everybody fine with that? We'll do the balance this fiscal year, next year 500?
All right, so then that means that 3,000 would be 500, so there's 5,500 that would come off of that total. We got, why don't we go ahead and recess out of the budget, because we got fiscal court starting in 10 minutes. We left off as far as the, trying to identify the total amount. We want to allocate these grant applications. Well, we can either
Down to individually and see if,
go down each applicant. We identified 4 applications that we can kind of, as far as a monetary amount, we can pull out, because you got the Veteran Support Group and the Veterans Band. We know those dollars. I think it's going to be, is it 500 that we determined? So that's 6,000. You're talking about 5,500.
Where's your other
CASA is out,
Where's your other?
but I mean, we don't
Well,
have to discuss it.
their applications that they submitted each one 3,000.
but if we, yeah, we
That's-
combine those.
Mm-hmm.
Three
Fine, that's
was,
6,000.
three's really all they asked for.
Um,
My understanding, Robert was just, I thought Robert was agreed that if we gave the support group 3,000, that was adequate. Is that not true?
Well, to make sure I'm tracking, the amount that's in the account is more than 3,000. So
Yeah,
we're
but
gonna-
I thought we backed out of that and
Thank you.
ended up with it being 500, and we were gonna transfer the amount in the account.
I think at
Yeah.
June, we're gonna transfer
Right,
the amount.
in this fiscal year,
I didn't take that.
Next
Next
fiscal
year.
year, we're gonna do 500.
500, yeah, that's what, yeah.
So.
Where's
it-
your, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you take the 3,000 from the Veterans Group and the 3,000 from Chandler, that's 6,000. We're talking about next fiscal year. We've determined next fiscal year, we're gonna give them 500.
Correct.
So the difference is 5,500. Because what I did is I went down each application and totaled those up. So there's 5,500 just out of those two that we're not, those numbers,
Okay.
does that make sense?
5,500 is not being
But
awarded.
we're gonna.
No.
That's what I thought I
500,
was
that's what you're
missing, one
saying.
that had been
Yeah,
awarded.
I'm saying the same
500,
thing.
that's what I got, okay.
And then the Allied Service and CASA, they put on their application 1,800 each, which is 3,600, which is not a monetary, we're giving them. So when you add the 5,500 and the 3,600, that's 9,100. That's how I've kept up with my math. It really, I mean, it doesn't matter if we go down each one application specifically and discuss it.
We'll probably be more organized.
We'll get to an end number, I think, that way.
We can, I figured we could yay or nay on whichever ones we were in support,
And discuss,
see where we end up.
all right? The Morris County Veterans Support Group, I think we all agreed that those dollars were already earmarked for the veterans van, and we basically determined that those funds would go to the Veterans Support Group so that they can be managed by that board. Now, going in the next fiscal year, that would be $500 is what, if we were to continue our support like we have in the past, each county has committed $500 to that.
Have no
It
problem
was
with that at
called,
all.
it was called Veterans Band, but the veteran support,
Yeah, it would be veteran support.
yeah.
Raising the grant,
Board
sir,
will have-
$500.
They'll have access to that for whatever reason.
Yeah. Which, and just for the record, that's 500 from us in our budget, but those numbers are gonna be more because other counties, there's other support that will come in that will go directly to them, not through.
And It's changed over the years because they do have some federal, getting some federal help now, but this will actually be better because they can have other ways of helping the vets, and if they need to take a family member,
They can do it.
do it.
Yeah.
through the-
Excuse me.
The next one is Hope Clinic, Haven of Hope. They requested $2,000 in grant funds.
I'm okay
I
with
would
that.
fund that.
I have no problem with that. Were they weren't funded last year though, were they?
No.
No,
The year
I think
before?
I don't think they've ever been in it.
They,
Okay.
we used to sponsor a table at their banquet.
Yeah.
But that's the last thing we've done, and that's been years ago.
But we hadn't funded them in the last several years.
No.
Okay.
Everybody agree to them?
yes.
Yes.
Will they be a check in July, one check?
I think we need to decide what we're gonna do with all these.
Yeah,
Talked about before.
each one is kind of different. They've got just a $2,000 request for the overall mission that they provide. They provide quite a bit of stuff, but it's the overall mission of what they provide. Everything that they provide is free of service. It doesn't matter if we want to do a
I would suggest we just write a
$2,000 check.
I think we do all of them a check if we promised them.
Okay, and your public purpose there is the fact that they're open to give
Everyone,
advice, give some medical assistance, that sort of thing. Regardless of the issue over pro-life or not.
Right, they will
That's
actually,
the-
they see both, if,
I just think that you didn't hurt to have that part in your record.
yeah.
Is that okay
they're-
legally because of that? It is
They're-
okay? What, it is because of, I mean, it is okay.
Yeah, there's a service they're provided.
Oh, I mean,
Dude,
in my
that's a
mind
health
there is, but I thought you were
Right.
saying that there
Even
was
for
some
people-
question.
You know, it's not just to, well, even for people who have already, like she said, are gone through abortions to help them.
Right.
Yes.
Obviously, their mission is pro-life,
Right.
but they've expanded those services to such that it seems to me that
that's what I thought.
Public service.
Yeah, that's what I was, yeah.
Well, as we
I
said,
I
every
thought
one
it
of
would
those-
make sense to just make that point
Yeah.
while you're considering it.
Yeah.
Every one of these were, I thought were, whether we fund them or not, every one of them serve a public purpose.
The next one was the Morris County Athletics for Hoop Fest.
Have no problem.
No problem with that either.
That's public purpose, economic development.
Yes. I think we earmarked, or we discussed that last year, the economic impact that it has. West Allied Services, no monetary, but to give them free rent and
Agree.
office space here.
Agree.
Agree.
Next is Marcella's Kitchen.
Those are funds we've already been providing.
Exactly.
I have no problem.
How we, I mean, I don't know how
Yeah,
you
that's-
spend that, however you want it, I mean, we just may have to decide that, but, yeah, I would have no problem funding that, because like I said, those are funds we've been doing, but this is just making it more transparent.
Right.
I understand.
Let's see, Robert Chandler, the Veterans Van, we already took care of that one. Angela Boyd, CASA, same thing as Allied, no monetary, just office space here in the,
No problem with that for me.
then the next one is Kurt Smith Rescue Squad.
I think we need to wait, on the rescue squad to see if their Homeland Security grant, takes care of that.
What are we doing with the, Emily, the sonar?
Mm-hmm.
We voted,
It's already been purchased, and the rescue squad's been paid for it.
That was a pretty good,
But
was it
that was,
35,000?
that we've already done, we did that for this year.
This fiscal year,
Right,
yeah.
that was $35,000.
Well, it actually turned out to be
Turned out to be-
32, I think, 32, 1,
This would be, because of that, I would like to, for us to keep it in mind. I don't know that we can identify every one of these every time, but if we amended in funds down the road and, if it became apparent that we had the ability to do this,
Was that sonar, didn't they fill out a grant?
it could be that it'll get paid.
And maybe those monies, when they come in?
Could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. And,
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to necessarily pay us back, but if this would roll over and then let them furnish that other piece of equipment,
That
I
answers
think that
this
would be
question.
great.
Yeah.
plus the Homeland
that's-
Security grant, they're gonna apply for that also. So between those two avenues, hopefully they'll get that grant, and certainly we'll turn that money right back over to them, not want it paid and put in our bank account, but
Correct.
I would be all for them if they do get that to identify this, or
Wasn't
they've already
that
identified.
piece of equipment, $25,000?
This one that they
With the
requested,
arm and,
25,985,
25,
26.
I looked over that. and
25,985.
I've been reading it. I'm surprised that you can get that for less than 100,000. I mean, that's
fancy.
Oh, you mean,
I'm
by
shocked
the
that you
facts
can get it for
that, what it'll do?
$25,000.
Is that right?
Yes. Based on my reading, and, I read those specs on it, and I thought, God, that thing is
It's,
elaborate.
it is, yeah, it is.
And those apparently are for murky water.
Yes.
So, I just, I thought, that usually that just doesn't happen.
So am I hearing you saying that the next polar plunge, you feel more safe to jump in the water? That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I'll just put that in. Yeah, in case, no, if I go down, I don't want them to find me.
Oh, my.
Okay, so the rescue squad's grant application for the ROV, we'll wait, and if the grant that gets approved for the sonar, we could go ahead and earmark those monies that come back to us for the ROV.
I would be in favor of that.
I would agree with that.
Okay. The next one is Marshall County Senior Citizens. Let's see, their request was 92.5, and I think that includes utilities.
But that does not include insurance, as I said this morning. That's 8,000, what it was, $8,875.
Yeah.
That she didn't, she never sees that, so she thought that they will keep paying it. That wasn't in her grant application. So,
That brings it to 101,375 they're requesting.
And I think because we are paying her health insurance, it kind of complicates the request. Like, if we are going to continue to pay, if that's what you all intend to do, is to continue to allow her to keep that coverage.
well, if we're gonna do it hard, and I certainly wouldn't think we would jerk it there.
Now, what?
Was that insurance on
It's her health insurance.
health insurance?
For the director.
Ramona, yeah.
At one time, they did it at Calvert, Hardin, and Benton. And Calvert moved to Hardin, and they don't do it for Miss Sullivan, retired. They didn't do that anymore. And,
Those funds, we channeled those directly into the senior citizens, rather than paying them that on behalf of their employees. Once that employee was gone, we paid it directly to them.
well, I'm certainly, from my side of it, I'm certainly for including that and increasing that 92.5 by $8,875.
I have no problem with that either.
Agree.
Anybody got a calculator?
What was that, 8,000 what?
101,375.
What, I think that's what Emily said, it was that ballpark anyway, 8,875. $75 was what
I
we
just
pay
want
on
us to all
behalf
understand
insurance.
how it would go. I feel like it's the intent that she would stay as she is on the health insurance,
Yeah,
correct?
Right.
Okay.
That would be,
All right.
that was what I would expect.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which amounts to that, but she didn't identify that on there, and she was afraid of that number because she didn't fully understand that,
Well-
because when I asked her, if she'd put that on there, she did not on her grant application. She didn't
The-
think she
the-
had to because they were already paying it just like they were paying Ann's. So she omitted that, and
Let me pull up that amount so we can identify it, since that's what we're doing.
yeah, that's what you show me. I guess it's not on my dresser, but you totaled it up, and it was 87 something, I guess. Maybe 87, 85 or something like that.
It's,
You wrote it on the sheet, my sheet.
it's $1,014.76 per month. So it's $12,177.12.
It's what?
$12,177.12 for health insurance.
Where'd we get the 87, something that you identified to me yesterday in those things?
Because that was this fiscal year, and this fiscal year, we've only given them 72.5.
I know, but you got it, you took it on out, and I said, is this accurate through the end of June? And you punched some more numbers in and added
Yes.
it up, added to those columns, and that number was 87. Now you're saying it's 12?
Yes, it's 12,000, it's
Okay.
$1,000 a
Where did the 87
month.
come from then? That's what
It
I
came from,
thought that's what you, that was my question yesterday when I asked that. It was 8,700, and so that's not accurate. It's 12,000 or whatever it is. That's what, because she failed to add what she's already receiving in that process. And I thought isn't she on the single plan?
no,
She's not? She married again?
it's
Her husband just passed away a couple of years
It's
ago.
500, unless there's been a change since this past month, it's $507 per check. Per,
Well, we probably need to find out about that. I mean, I don't think she's remarried, but her husband just passed away a year and a half ago or something, because she was thinking about retiring and so forth. I mean, if we've got her on the family plan and
And the
it's just her, we're
And
shooting away.
the other,
maybe,
the other thing I think
it may
that-
be that's Ann's number.
What now?
That might be Ann's. Might be how much Ann's is.
I
me-
bet
let me-
it is.
let
Because
me
you
look.
told me 87, you had all of it printed out on three, I bet that's what it is.
Maybe I
That
added
is
that
what
up
that is, because
myself.
I've seen that number before.
Okay, yes,
Because
this
that's
makes
Ann
more
and
sense.
Jerry. That's what that is. Yeah. Yeah, that's, the single plan is, yeah,
Yes, that's Ann's. Mona's is,
I think the other thing that we need to think about moving forward with these grant applications, this is the first year that we're going to do these. Going into the next year's, Mona's not a county employee. We're providing health insurance. These other nonprofit organizations, what is going to be our standard to say yes or no to any future requests? Is the county going to be getting into the business of providing health insurance for employees of nonprofit organizations?
I kind of think it's like we talked about at the end of the regular scheduled meeting. I think we need to clean all that up, but we need to take into consideration, we don't need to dump on the employee right here at the end of, in the other case, 19 years. So, I mean, that's my feeling.
And I mean,
But you are correct.
we have to have
we need
that
to clean it up.
conversation
Of course,
because,
I know if they're, again, it's back to, I guess, serving a purpose in the county, serving people in our county.
well,
But there's a lot of people that do that, but I mean, we have to pick and choose what we believe are.
I mean, just looking at these.
Is that right?
Just looking at these that have,
Did you figure that, is that,
Oh.
was that
I
Ann's?
believe so, yes.
Yeah.
I believe, and I think I need to talk to Karen about where we're posting Mona's, because it's not posted back in here in where I would think it should be posted.
Well, what you gave me, whatever it was,
Mm-hmm.
you had like the last 3 or 4 years
Yes,
of that on there,
Yes.
and there was three columns, because I didn't understand it at first till you explained it to me, and we went ahead and put it out through the end of June.
Yeah,
and
I'm looking
to the-
at-
Okay.
I'm looking at our posting ledger versus the spreadsheet that I had that categorized everyone.
Well, if that figure's accurate, it's like 8,000. Now that you said, I think it was 8,785. I said 8,875. I think maybe the 7 and the 8 are backwards there, but $8,800. We'll get that. Have $15 to spare or whatever.
My understanding of those that can get health insurance are, one, county employees. If they are something less than full-time, you would have to put that in there. If there's something less than full-time, they're not automatically entitled to health insurance, but depending on their circumstances and
Be
You
that
can-
Article
you
s-
can
I
make
mean, that
that.
Article 6 that.
yes, you can make that apart.
right, what I'm saying is we have to, we're opening up the door. You can look at these applications that have been submitted, next year, through the grant application process, we get all the applications and more where they're requesting employees to be on our health insurance. Where do we draw the line? How do we determine then who gets?
That would be easier for me if it's a new employee, because I agree with you 100%. We need to clean this up. But as we talked about earlier this morning, we don't need to dump on a 19-year employee, which Mona Yarborough is, if we, to change that policy, something that's been ongoing for that length of time. And it's a very similar situation that we discussed earlier.
I'm not certain that
everybody's
they
in
wouldn't
agreement.
qualify for the same coverage themselves. I mean, I can't necessarily advise them about that, but I do know that they qualify for Kentucky Retirement System. And I don't know that I see a difference in, they are being affiliated in some way to get on Kentucky Retirement System. I would think that it would almost be the same, that they could get the same insurance coverage through the state policy as a quasi.
Would it be something to think about where in their, for employees that are already receiving benefits in the grant application, the money's provided to where they go get insurance?
I just don't want to put a hardship on Ann Darnell or Mona Yarborough, and that's my feeling, the way we're doing it now. And I think maybe at this point in the game, neither one of them are going to be there forever, and I think it's close on both of them. And like I say, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair on the second day of June to decide that we're not gonna cover her health insurance in the following month. She doesn't even have time
Right,
to acquire new coverage,
the-
I
so.
mean, it's something you need to look
The-
at, and
the-
that's a
the dis-
reasonable
Yeah, the
question.
discussion is moving forward. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
We have to,
And I agree 100%.
But if she can get the same policy through the senior citizens who she's employed by, unlike Ann is employed through us. So if she could get that same policy, we would just add to their direct
Same
subsidy.
policy at a reasonable cost,
It'd be the same,
like or less.
yeah, in the same example as if we've got them paying their own utilities, but we're gonna front them. We're gonna actually, they've requested utilities, we're gonna give them the cost of the utilities. Something similar to that, if they can get their own insurance, but I'm not certain if they can or not. I
Yeah,
think it
we
might be
don't know
something that
that.
they should look into.
Well, I think that that's some, you know, that's my question. How are we gonna handle, doing that? Is it, obviously, nobody wants to pull the rug out from underneath these individuals, but moving forward, if it is something to where we're gonna fund it, that may be the discussion that we tell these employees.
The next
Going into the
director.
next year, we're trying to clean up county,
Right.
you know,
And
business,
they
so.
will realize that, the next director coming in, I
Yeah.
mean, just start,
Just explain it to them up
right,
front.
right. That's
Exactly.
That's in the job description, and no insurance provided in the package.
That might be something that we could ask Peel and Holland to look into,
Yeah.
to see if they could come off of our policy and be on their own policy with the same coverage.
And if the exact same coverage, well, Peel and Holland manages this, so they can do that.
Yeah, I think
I don't
that-
see why the employee would object to that if, you know, but now if they give a
Right.
guess what, and it's, you know, this thickness right here, and she's got to read through, I'm going to kind of be leery myself if, you know, who's going to take the time to do that.
Right, right.
say,
I'm not
dang,
suggesting this drop her.
It's not the same
But
coverage.
if they can, if the senior citizens entity themselves can pick up and be a part of the Kentucky Employees Health Plan, just like we are, her coverage wouldn't be at the mercy of this court. They'd be at the mercy of her board.
My gut feeling is they don't provide that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, they don't, but I think they
Right.
could. And if we were funding it, if we said, this is what it costs and this is added to your grant
Or
process.
private through Peel Holland,
Yeah.
I would have no problem with that going forward, but I certainly don't
And
want
that
to
might
confuse her.
benefit their
till
other
this time.
employee or something.
Does anybody have any problem with adding the 8,000? What are we gonna make that? I'm pretty sure it's 87. Let's make it
Let's-
8,800.
Let's just call it, we will continue to carry her health insurance coverage, because what if she does remarry and wants to pick them up? We
Oh,
cannot
right.
restrict that.
Good idea, yeah. Yes, we will do that.
Gonna
And
give the 92.5 and plus her coverage.
plus her coverage, yeah, okay.
What is it, 88?
Let's call it $8,800, because I'm sure Emily wrote 87
Yeah,
and
I just
change.
don't want to attach a number to it.
Yeah,
and
I understand, but
and
but you've worded it well, and that's the
Something
way it should
change
be.
with her. We can't restrict
Right, right.
her options. We can't single her out differently than anybody else.
That's 101, 300.
And I think,
What is the total?
It'll be 92.5 direct subsidy, correct?
Yes.
To 5 direct subsidy and then plus,
Then we will carry the insurance
right.
on.
I think also, we discussed it, but I think to reiterate, the reason why the court's doing this is because they are currently enrolled in the insurance, these individuals. So
One individual.
agencies
In this
that,
case.
you know, may, after we make our decision, ask the question, you know, why their employees aren't getting the health insurance is because there's a transition.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we make that transition to where we don't adversely hurt employees who are currently in the healthcare,
Right.
receiving it, so.
And I think we all agree or
Well,
realize that
way
needs to
you-
be cleaned up.
Yeah, the way you've got the code now is that, you know, you have, if someone is a full-time employee, there are basics that they are entitled to like everybody else. If there's something you do different, what you can, but this is the way you do it. You do it up front, and it's documented, and they know from that, the get-go, what they're gonna get. So that one employee says, well, why did they, well, here it is.
Correct. Okay. The next one was need line.
I have no problem with that.
I do not either.
And we also identified that the next court meeting, you'll have the deed prepared to where that lease, they did their part, they need line.
I got your draft, you got the draft deed.
You got the draft? Okay, good. So the intent is that need line, as the agreement was in the lease, they will I think it was 2015 when they paid off the note, they will actually take ownership of that facility, which was agreed upon. The next one is the Whack Pack. There were two, we discussed that, there were two applications. The one was just a request for utilities at the park.
And how much was that?
That was 2,500.
Yeah, I have no problem with that portion, yeah.
Now, if you note the first paragraph, no entity will receive more than one grant per funding cycle. Now, since this is new, they filed two. They could have technically combined some of this, but the second one is, yeah, the total cost was 58, but that's putting in,
It's actually tearing down the, removing the sorghum house and building a pavilion on the pad.
Reworking electrical.
And there's some, anyway, I'd have to get it back out. I thought it said something about speakers.
What is
add
your-
speakers to the stage
what is
area
your
with a
opinion
mini
on that?
hookup.
What's your district?
I wondered if we wouldn't possibly at some point try to just remove the sorghum house for right now. I mean, not under a grant program, but just under a safety issue at a county
Right.
park. To keep somebody from getting into the building, kids to get in it or whatever.
Right.
And then stop there and see what we do then, what we can do in the future. But if we needed to put a value to it, I just thought we could knock it down with the track hoe and the thumb and haul it off with a couple of trucks.
Okay, so what we'll do is
Approve the 25.
25
the
and then-
2,500 and we'll add, well, actually, we don't even have to add to it because from what I'm hearing, the safety issues, we'll just go
Yeah, I
ahead and
think
take
it's,
it
it's
down.
it's on us to try to get rid of that
Well, the
liability.
utilities is, though, 2,500.
I mean, the utilities, I
Yeah,
agree that we
yeah,
should,
I am too.
that's the grant. And then
Yeah.
the other part would be just, at some point, remove the building, not under this grant program, but just as a safety issue.
Right,
Taking a bad building off your property.
right.
Yes.
Safety issue, yeah.
Okay,
Health and safety is, that, okay, that's.
I mean,
just
It
so,
don't have anything to do to affect them necessarily, I mean.
No.
other than-
They can't use the building now anyway.
and just so that we stayed, they turned in two applications. We're granting the one, 2,500. The other one, technically, we're not, but we identified that there is a safety issue that doesn't have to go through the grant application. That's
We
something that
agree
we
with
need to,
them, that the
Correct.
building needs to come down unanimously, yeah.
there's,
I think that'll be.
I just want to make sure that people know that they
Bob,
were awarded one.
Absolutely. I think they'll be pleased.
you think she'll be pleased with
I think
that?
she included that 3,900 for the new pavilion in that 85 also.
So
The electric and move the storage building.
2,500.
we
Yeah, that's
granted,
2,500, yeah, right.
Building access ramp.
and we are awarding it directly to them.
Well, it's the utilities.
So we're gonna pay utilities.
I think on the utilities, we need to, any
We own the property.
county property that we own, we do an agreement with those entities and,
We have that with them now.
yeah, but I think we voted to,
Yeah, that's right. We're
Supersede
gonna
that.
amend that to a complete,
yeah.
right, when we
Are you gonna be able to have that by the 20th, Jeff?
Yes,
Agreement. So we're gonna,
didn't
need
look
line gonna be
convincing.
that way too? They're gonna start
If you
paying
get,
their
if they
own
get somebody to
utilities
cook
and we'll
fish
just
for you
require.
Saturday, you get her done earlier, can't you? Somebody cook fish for you?
that shouldn't be a problem.
Need line, are they gonna start paying their utilities or are we gonna pay them on their behalf? Or are we not determined that yet?
That's gonna, he's bringing the deeds on the 20th, that'll be their building. So we wouldn't have to go into an agreement.
Okay.
But we
got-
do
you got
need,
that
we
deal
do
right
need to
there.
give them ample time if we're,
She's got it.
we're giving them, that's what this,
right, I know that's what the money's for though, but what I'm saying is we need to give them, give them ample time to do all that so they won't, change.
WAC
If we're gonna require them to change the utilities.
Whack Packs, I think, is already in their name.
Yeah, they're already in there, but I know I was talking about the need line part of it, but or whack pack if it was, but, okay.
We're gonna modify the terms of that lease, like we talked about earlier. That's what.
Whack packs,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what.
Well, we're gonna
It's a
create
countywide.
countywide agreement,
Yeah.
yes.
That's no problem.
Let's see, the next one was, Morris County Ramp Ministries.
I have no problem with that at all.
Me neither.
That was 3,000. The next one is South Marshall Senior Citizens. And that was 37,751.
That's,
Salary, fringe,
and utilities.
utilities, and helper. And I think that's another county facility that we'll have to have an agreement with.
Agreed.
She'll remain on our payroll.
I can live with that.
The, well, the grant application is 37,751. We don't have her budgeted as an employee.
That's what I think I'm asking. Do we not amend, because it's not in stone yet, but do I modify the budget to reflect her as an employee again?
Well, I think the 37,750 is to pay her.
That's, I mean, that's her pay, whether she gets it through the being a county employee
Board.
or the
That's,
board.
that's her pay,
and her
utilities,
fringe and her
and
utilities.
another
Yeah.
employees in her absence.
And just like
not
I think
all.
it's
Yeah.
$1,300 for a fill-in.
Yeah, I guess that's my question. Do I write that to the Hardin South Micro Senior Citizens, or do I do it
That's,
indirectly and pay it on their behalf?
well, the utilities would be through the agreement that we draft up. The other monies,
But the utilities could be within the agreement, but the other that's gonna be, her fringe would change if we pay it directly to them, correct? If she's not considered an employee, the same as she has
Look, it'd
been.
be
It
cleaner
would
to leave
change.
it if you're gonna
Yeah, I mean,
If we could leave it, I think it would be,
cleaner, and it's not gonna be there
for now anyway, we can change that if there's another director comes in, but I hate to change her status.
well, as an employee, one of the problems that we have is the auditors noted she's the only employee that handwrites her time card. We put a manual one down there. She's not using it. She doesn't report to anybody. I think Jeff said she falls under me. There's no way that I can
As a count, yeah.
supervise.
I mean, without any,
As an employee, I guess that's true. I mean, we have a board. I mean, and I'm on the board, but
that's a private,
Yes.
nonprofit
it's a
organization.
nonprofit. We incorporated.
But you can get that message across. I'm sure she doesn't wanna, she wants to continue to do that, and as a board, do you think you would have any problem, and could she do that?
What's that?
Do what the auditors are demanding, that she,
Well, I would
I mean-
think, I don't know, we can talk, they talked about that, I don't, we've also had an issue with when we do our books, and we've been managed to do that, but she does a manual, she kinda does it manually too, but the gentleman that does our audits, he's been able to, take care of that without any problem, but I guess she has a manual operation, that's what she's comfortable with. But I honestly don't know about the time. I don't know what she would have to do to make that work.
well, are the auditors saying we need to show that time? Is that what they're saying?
The issue is that if we were to, because we're moving to the time clock plus,
I'll be consistent.
and we had 2 employees that were identified that were not supervised in filling out their own time cards. We corrected one, we moved clock down to the senior citizens, and it's not being used. There's,
That's at heart.
at Hardin,
We moved what down there now?
the punch, we took the old one out of here and put it down there for her to punch her time cards.
Okay.
And she's still writing them in. The problem is this, if we're gonna be accurate and meet what the auditors have identified, she's gonna have to drive up here, punch in, and then when she gets done for the day, drive back
We
up
can,
here.
I can address that. I'll see what we can find out. If she,
But are
But
we
she
okay
doesn't-
with her
She
punching
doesn't
in there?
report to anybody.
What about punching in there? Is that satisfactory?
we'll-
If she punches in there that we provided her, then she wouldn't have to drive up here?
We've had it there for almost a year.
Well, I know, but there's a board
yeah,
of
but of
directors.
course, I didn't realize that. I mean, I didn't know that.
I agree that it
just
needs
found
to
that
be
out
done.
recently, so we can try to address that. She does a lot of, when she goes and gets supplies and things, she does that. She doesn't count that as anything, in other words. That's why she keeps it on paper. She's afraid when she leaves, if she leaves and goes get supplies, she doesn't, and if she punches out after that, she's there 10 hours. You know, she doesn't know exactly how. I guess she can punch out and punch back in, but she goes and she does a lot of, purchases a lot of supplies for the community center.
Where she purchased?
She purchases food, cleaning supplies,
Oh, I thought
whatever
they
they
did for
need,
food. Yeah, I thought they
whatever
did for
they
food for
do.
Four Seasons.
Well, they get that from Four Seasons, but then they have potlucks and they add to that a lot of times with other food.
Oh, I've eaten there.
And that all comes out, that all comes out of their, where they do all of their own, the quilting and that sort of thing. Their fundraising is what brings in those dollars.
No, I agree with the judge. We probably need, if the
We
auditors
need to
say
get-
that, we need to,
I think,
you and Bobby and
I
Randall.
can work on that.
Right.
I
May
think
not be easy.
cleaning it up, we can accomplish the same thing. The burden that it puts on us is that we got an employee, the only employee left, that's not supervised. The employee basically works for a nonprofit. So it gets back into the whole thing. Now, we're not ripping the rug out from underneath her. The funds that are being requested are still there. The court's approving that, but I think that it cleans up on our end, the administrative portion of it.
Or,
37,751 has got utility,
yep,
and then there's 33,911 is for the salary and fringe, and then 1340 is for the helper when she's not there. So out the 2,500, which is utilities, we've already identified for utilities for county-owned properties, but those, the salary and the helper, that could either be, just like the other entities, a check written to them and the board manage that employee. She'd be become an employee.
what'll happen about her fringe? I mean, we'll just have to get it independent of the county.
Yeah, and
Well, that's got it in here. Is that, am I looking at this right? It says salary and fringe.
Yeah,
I mean, it wouldn't still be coming through the county. That's what my concern is. My concern
right,
is
yeah,
you
you'd
can't
have to
get,
start payroll on your own.
is that retirement? And I mean, is that,
You're not gonna do that, sure.
I mean, we don't need to. That's,
When-
that'd be a lot.
I mean, and ethically,
to
that
take
thing
on.
we went to Wednesday night, that's against the law, you know, I mean, with you on that board, just like Kevin or any of us, Johnny or I, Rich Orange, Wednesday night.
I would have to probably
You can't
recuse
buy-
myself from
Right,
this.
yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't take this
Right,
vote.
right, exactly. He made that perfectly clear.
Said
and,
that would be an ethics violation. He gave him.
Which one, what would be an ethics?
The
I'm on the board.
elected officials basically being in direct subsidy or being on a board.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
If you're, that's not if you're a sheriff or
I
not
can
if you're
remove myself from
a
that
jailer,
board.
but
That
if you're a
ain't a
judge,
problem.
executive, manager, commissioner, and you own a tire store, the county cannot buy tires from you. Can't buy a nail from you, it's your
All you have to
hardware.
do is
If you're a judge, executive,
That's
if you're a
right.
sheriff
That's
and
what
own
I've
one,
done, But
That's the reason they
I just
quit
don't know
buying
where,
gas and hardware.
just like the other thing, I
Yeah.
mean, she's getting very near retirement, I'm not sure what's gonna happen if she's not, if we're not paying in, if it's not coming directly from the
Well-
county, then is she gonna be taking off the retirement rolls and?
just get her to punch that clock and
well-
it'll all
I
go
can get her
away.
to punch a clock.
Get her to punch a clock and it'll all go away.
Is she retiring?
I don't think so. No, she's not retiring. She's not wanting to right now. But she's, I'm
But when
I'm
she
talking
means
about,
retired, does she mean I don't want to go to work anymore? Or does she mean I've stopped working and want to draw a check from retirement? Is that something she's concerned about?
Does she not have a phone such that she can clock in through the system?
Well, I think they've attempted that and she,
Brad's tried to explain it to her.
Well, that would be the easy thing. I mean, because then when she goes and when she gets done at Walmart or wherever getting her supplies or drops them off, she just clocks out.
yep. It's more like,
might be like
but-
my mother trying to do that though.
Yeah, that's why we put the
If-
manual one down there.
Right.
The
Just get her to punch
biggest
a
thing
manual
with
clock,
the,
problem solved.
the biggest thing with the auditors is that there's no accountability. I mean, she doesn't report to anybody. We have no oversight.
You have to stop by there every morning and punch her in.
I can provide some oversight if that would be legal.
I mean, she's got to cooperate. If we're gonna cooperate and meet her halfway, she's gotta meet us halfway.
We tried the,
know.
making her
I
the,
know, I know.
mean,
and
And-
that
Now,
didn't work
wasn't-
out.
Of course, that was, I don't think that was on her. I think she tried to do that, but I don't think she
Well-
was very well received.
I think
No, they
when,
were tickled to death that that was going down.
yeah,
Benton,
yeah.
they're saying just the opposite, so.
Well, I get, we got two different stories there.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
uncommon.
But things
But
like that are
the-
gonna happen, that's just part of it, yes.
Yeah.
I understand that. But get her to punch the time clock.
The, I mean, we've tried.
Well, I'm just talking to Bob.
I don't, the,
Because if the auditors are saying that, identifying that, that's,
if,
I don't,
if she were not a county employee anymore, her health insurance would terminate, her participation with the retirement system would not go away, but she would no longer be contributing.
correct.
She should be able to start drawing at that point, if that was something she's interested in.
and she's met her 10-year threshold now as of March.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Just tell her no punch, no lunch.
yeah.
Well,
But the hardened
that
senior
phrase sometime, I
citizens
like
would be
that.
under much fewer
having credit
obligations
Keep it simple.
as an employer than we are.
No punch, no
We're
lunch.
constituted as a large employer, and you all would be a small employer. So there'd be less requirements that you would have to meet, if that makes sense.
Just tell her
That's
Johnny
again, I
said
don't
no
know all,
punch, no
I don't know
lunch.
all the ins and outs, but if we approve this amount, I guess some of that we'll have to work out between now and when July 1, maybe.
well, what we can do is approve the amount,
But man,
and then we can look into the details.
Yeah, I
That way, the
expect that.
budget, we've got the amount identified.
correct, that's what I'm
budget.
saying, that's what I thought.
Yeah,
But just so that, we all understand is that the goal is to get to where we have, management of our employee, and we're down to one. We had two, but we're down to one. And, if we can do that.
We're headed in the right direction.
Effectively, then that's the goal. So we agree that the dollar amount we'll agree to, is that right? Yes. And we'll try to find out the
I
details.
recuse myself from that
Okay,
line item.
okay. So for the minutes, Rick, Johnny, agreed to it.
Right.
Bob
Approve, yes.
recuses himself, and I agree to the dollar amount. And that, the reason why Bob's doing that is because of our code of ethics.
Right.
He's a board member of the Hardin South Marshall Senior Citizens.
Yeah, and he receives no pecuniary benefit from it anyway.
Right.
And
Oh,
I-
and that annual report for that organization has been filed.
And if you're asking, want to add to that, my yes is if she punches the clock, as the state auditor has requested us to make her more accountable. I think she needs to, I don't care if she punches the clock or Brad teachers do the other thing, but she needs to do one or the other.
There's, anyway, there may be some, and it may be, I'll get back with you quick as I can on that. We'll see what they can do down there to make all of it work.
The next one is the Humane Society. That was 30,000.
Humane Society, is that what you said?
I wasn't prepared to fund that one.
Well, we've been hearing for 5 years they're going under any minute, so I can't support that either.
I think the other thing to look at there is that there may be a possibility they can help us with our manpower at the animal shelter. This fiscal year, the animal shelter was, it was identified a couple months ago, they were over budget 13,000. I think since then there was some detailed changes on how the management of that was changed, and schedules were changed, and they've reduced that greatly. But
The only thing, in 2000, I don't know, it won't be the same, but in 2012, it was discussed at length. We were looking at it going into a lease agreement with them, and when you got the maintenance, got everything, I've got a spreadsheet I can put back together, but it probably wouldn't apply today, but it's be similar, but anyway, every way I could calculate it, it was much more expensive to the county to do that, rather than if we needed more room or even another employee out at the shelter, it was less expensive than it was taking on the insurance and maintenance and all of the
The other
Building.
facility, it would be operating two facilities.
right.
I mean, what
Through all
I
that,
heard,
it was like $250,000 over 10 years or something.
as Kip explained it, it was a little concerning to me that they've been selling off property and it's a pattern there for the last 5 years. They've been losing money and selling off properties
Before
too.
that,
I'm sure it's long
sold
before that, but that's
sold
what-
the facility here in Benton, and that's when they bought that facility, and those funds are what they've used plus donations until now, and evidently that's running out. Now they've sold 4 acres. So, I don't know, none of that, there was a lot of maintenance costs, associated, and there was about and this sounds about right, $30,000 was what they wanted at that time for kennel extensions. I don't know about a vehicle, but that's what was one of the items in my cost analysis. But anyway, that was, like I said, that was in 2012, and it was a little different circumstances, but I'm just not sure what we were gonna do. There was 2 or 3 options that she gave to lease it, but now we talked about even purchasing it.
Yeah,
and they didn't-
I've still got,
They
see,
didn't
Tom
want it.
Blankenship and I
Part
worked
of
on
that.
that. And there were several different proposals. That's that last round we went through.
Yeah, that was in 2012.
Yeah. I mean, I can get you a file on it with all of the different suggestions made on leasing, and we just never did, nobody ever came to the table to talk about it seriously.
Well, if it was
Hey,
looked bad in
it was
2012,
involved- I mean, it was discussed
gonna look
at
worse
length.
now.
Any better?
I mean, it wasn't cost effective. At that time, it may be different circumstances, but at that time, it was certainly not cost effective at that point.
Apparently, they've got 3 or 4 or 5, that's 5 years less resources than they did then, because I didn't know that, but they've sold off just to survive, so their equity is not, their assets have diminished considerably, so I would say they'd be a lot worse off than.
And, I mean, they've got a relationship with our animal shelter now. Probably at that time, they didn't have one. Really, did they?
No.
You were involved in that.
No, whatever they had at that time was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was bad.
There was too much history still with the,
Yeah, but now we have a relationship between the two entities.
well, it seemed better from one way than it did the other with the two people we talked with this week.
Here's, and again, I'm looking at it as far as decisions today and implications tomorrow. We've got an organization that identifies that they potentially they're operating in the deficit and can potentially go under. They've requested $30,000. Any of these organizations that we have agreed to support, if we were not to support them, would either of those organizations go under? Could they stand alone without the county's support?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I don't think the senior citizens could.
Certainly the
and
ramp
Needline
ministry
couldn't.
could.
Ramp could, yes.
The ramp could.
The Veterans Support Group might be able to.
Yeah, the Veteran Support Group is,
Haven of Hope possibly could.
Like I say, with the exception of Haven and Hope, we have already done that. We're just identifying those numbers in our budget, the way I understand it. And I certainly have no problem with $2,000 for Hope Clinic. That's a very good.
But, I mean, if $30,000, we were looking at it at that time as those dollars were going, we were looking at it at that time as a lease agreement, and we looked at, they wanted us to take over the building and do all the maintenance and pay the insurance. And when you calculated all that, then, and you looked at our building, I mean, we could spend just a very small portion of that cost and improve the animal shelter
Yeah.
that we have, and it
And the
would still.
building's on our
the different-
property.
It would still be our property. That was the last ending deal was that they weren't gonna turn the property over to us. They wanted us to maintain it all those years, and then they wanted it back. And it was gonna cost like, $270,000 to do
Yeah.
this maintenance. And then at the end of this 10-year period, we didn't have anything.
Yeah, I think,
If we spent those dollars at the animal shelter, we'd have a 2-story Hilton animal shelter.
Isn't that when we went in and built that outside pen?
It is when we built the
And bought the
outside
truck.
pen, right? And then the other part of that was the only thing they've ever asked for in addition is a separate room to adopt out of. And I don't think we've ever built that. You know, these dollars would build that. Now, it is
almost
over, I
did
know
10
where it
years
is,
ago.
but they're doing a really good job of adopting, or it seems to me they are anyway, when I get reports from them.
their adoption funds are down. They're down probably a third from what they were. I think the main thing is since they've started animal control out of there, their part-time and relief staff has snowballed. And
well, and I think that's
that's
I think that's
creating,
debatable as far as call-outs compared to management. But,
Okay, and we were looking at, I think, where they were doing investigations at the health department, that was
Well, the health department,
Correct that.
there was and that's something we're gonna have to talk about maybe next court meeting, but there was a decision that was made outside the fiscal court that affected, the budget.
Okay.
And there's statutes that support who actually does those investigations.
Okay.
But I think that can be, if we go back to the way it was, that can be a relief on the budget for the animal control. All right, so I'm hearing that we're not going to support the Humane Society, the 30,000, not approve it. Okay. Do we have that's all of them, do we have a total budget amount? What we had put in the budget, we just got an average over the past 3 years. But is there a dollar amount that we want to put in, that moving forward with it, keeping it in mind, moving it forward, that we have a consistent, that the goal would be to have a consistent dollar amount that would be reasonable and fair to support those public purposes in our community.
Emily? You add all them up?
200,000, 450,
I'm at 191,701.
I counted that 8,800 insurance also for the seniors.
Yeah, I'm not quantifying that because it's subject to change.
But we've got to account for it.
I think what she said is you pay the health insurance.
Oh, we just continue to do that? Oh,
No, that's what I
So
thought.
that way, whatever it
Oh,
comes in.
okay, I thought you just wait to get the correct number, see if it was too.
No,
Oh, I have no
whatever
problem,
that
whatever's
number
easiest
is.
for you, as long as it's added in there.
Yeah, because if she gets married in 2 weeks
Yeah.
to
Oh,
a
I
man
agree with
that's
you. You are
25 with 3
correct.
children, we
You are
can't
correct.
change that.
Right, you are correct, but okay, so we're gonna continue doing that and suggest she gets married in 2 weeks. No.
I would probably suggest you not.
Okay.
Now, look out.
But,
I'll
okay,
get in
I
trouble
just
for
didn't
that.
understand that, I have no problem, absolutely, and she should have no problem with that. Matter of fact, should be appreciative of that, opportunity.
And do we come up with a number that's just slightly above that for contingencies if somebody comes in that?
I think that'd be reasonable, yeah.
I think so.
I mean, because we have already identified that, we tried to reach as many as we could. We knew that we weren't going to reach all of them. The nonprofits or, those public purpose organizations in the community. So giving a contingency amount would be reasonable.
What's your number, Emily?
191,701.
91,
191,701.
oh, 191, 701?
Yeah,
8,000.
200 isn't, I mean, that's some, but 225,
25?
220.
220?
Don't get too carried away.
I'm here to record your actions.
210?
200's not a nice round number?
Well, it only leaves you $8,300.
But we've got everything we've ever done in here, and
And a one or two?
Not everything we've ever done. It used,
well,
this
no,
list
no,
used
I
to
no, I
be.
don't
No,
mean
no.
that, but in the
No, I
last 3
understand.
years, this, everything
But,
we've done,
yeah,
the way it's been
and
sold.
recent-
Yes, yes.
Recently, except, I mean, some of them didn't turn in that we know didn't turn in, and they just didn't turn in.
Because I realize that it's been my philosophy, these are obviously, we have pretty much all four agreed upon this, which is a good thing, or this list, and everybody's thinking along the same lines, but as time goes on, not necessarily next year, but down the road, I certainly think we need to take care of what we got before there are many, many more good organizations in this county than that right there, but we can't help everybody,
Well, I
or
mean,
we go broke.
I mean, of course, in what I do, of course, 10% would be a contingency on just basically any contract that I would sign, which again would put us at about 210.
If you want to go with 200, and if
Oh, I have
somebody
no- I have
comes
no
to
problem.
you
I'm not
with
holding
a
on to figure.
reasonable request that you all want to grant, we can look at how to fund it at that time.
How about right in the middle, 205? You live with that?
I'm
with
fine
me.
fine with that.
Fine with me.
I can
fine
live
with me.
that. So,
Doc, he's a negotiator, isn't he?
but that gives us
Yeah,
$14,000
absolutely.
wiggle room, and I know there's some people on that list
I know
that you
there's-
said that
exactly.
may be a little
500 or
hesitant
1,000.
about it.
That surprised me that, the Arts Center didn't respond, because they asked for 5,000.
They asked for 5,000, yeah. They, George says he does every year.
I know, and the Fair Board. I mean, when I was on the Fair Board, we asked every,
And the Exceptional Center, we gave them a,
Yeah, Fair Board, I didn't understand that either.
man, I know, I've talked to them and sent them
Okay.
2 different ones, and he sent them one.
well, and we knew too that, you know, this is something that's new. We obviously, we contacted those agencies but moving forward, I would say that this, once the word gets out, others will probably.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's important that we have, and I think we've done a good job at identifying why we made our decisions in some of these
Well,
organizations.
and I think people watch this right here, and what you're all trying to do, and we'll just tell them that it's just formalized, and
Yes.
it's easy.
Well, I mean, that's true, and it was primarily the dollars that we were spending, and now we've identified them, and quantified them, and that's always a good.
And even
Nothing- ever
identified
nothing
them
wrong
for
with
the
that.
people sitting here, because I think I've heard everybody in this room say that I didn't know that. I thought Marcella's Kitchen was owned by the Lions Club. Somebody told me that 2.5 years ago, and then somebody told me the county owned it, and somebody said Marcella's on it, so, you know, now I know. And I didn't have any idea that we were already spending $10,950. I mean, it's good to know that.
Doc, I think that took place back when, see, that lot next to it, I foreclosed on it.
Yep.
And we came back and we bought it at the public sale. And I think that's when all that,
Oh, at public sale?
I can't be,
I know, we've owned it,
we had a lot going on back then.
we've owned it.
Well, I didn't even
Since
know
I
that
was
then,
here, I think.
that particular lot, when the judge and I and Larry Whit went out there and looked at it about the mowing and, you know, why in the heck are we mowing a lot across well, we own it or do we not own it and so forth. And I think that was kind of up in the air and didn't really even know then. And, but it's been good for me to go through this, and I've learned some things about utilities. I had no idea that we did that because it's lumped in and it's no particular line item, it's just under utilities. But that's good practices to identify that. I have no problem with that at all.
We'll go ahead and notify everybody what the decisions were, and what I'll do too is make sure that those entities, Benton Senior Citizens, Hardin Senior Citizens, and Marcella's Kitchen, that we're putting together an agreement, since they're county-owned properties, and we'll go ahead and let Needline know, even though that
No,
they know that they're getting their deed.
Well, and two,
Marshall County Senior Citizens own that building.
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, no, that's
Okay,
a
I
different,
thought we
Yeah.
found out something that. Yeah,
So it'd be
that's fine.
Marcella's,
because
And Hardin, yeah.
we've been contacted by the Lions Club, and they have raised, years ago, they raised about over $6,000 from bingo. And that was for building improvements. And they're trying to determine what to do with that money. So, and they've come to me and want to talk with the judge and myself about handling that. So I assume we'll be following up with that and to make that determination.
yeah. Don't they have a septic tank issue?
They have it, yes, she says that
Marcella's does, yeah.
she says that they pump it about twice a year.
Because I know that's in the Chestnut Creek area, and I thought I had
That's
talked
true.
to the health department and
They've got
Maggie's
more than one
money.
tank, too.
Yes, they got 2 tanks.
Yeah.
But they're eligible for that 1,500,
And see-
1,800, whatever Maggie said.
Right.
if they
You know, it
hook
could
on.
be, you know, anytime that you, in that situation, anytime that you're putting vegetables and things down in a sink, I don't know if that's what they're doing, but if they go down in there, the septic system doesn't accept those very
And
well
I
at all.
bet you they don't have a grease trap.
Yeah, and that's-
Probably not.
And that's probably why they're having to pump ever so often.
Right.
Now, I don't know if they've got any field line issues or not. I just know that they
Yes, because some of those field lines were on that property
own
we
that property. Now,
foreclosed.
they did have
That was
field
why
line.
it was so
That was why
important.
we purchased it.
Yeah, that
Exactly
was the
right.
reason, because we needed the parking lot, and if there was some of those field lines extend.
But I don't, what I mean, I don't know if they're coming to the top of the ground or whatever, but that was the issue because they were on that lot. That's correct.
Well, that might be a suggestion for that bingo money.
Yeah, we could fix some of that.
It might be co-support with the monies that Chestnut Creek has available. So that way
Yeah.
I'll make a note of that, and then that way I know I talked to her, I think when they did the county employees meal for us, so, if they're gonna ask us what we think, would you say it was $6,800?
Yeah, about, it's over 6,000.
Yeah, so we might be able to get something for them, because I think they got the Porter Johns out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I think that takes care of the nonprofits as far as the budget. Was there anything else that, budget-wise, that we wanted
You want me to
to say?
make my pitch that I made to you before lunch? A quick one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I've been doing a little research and some needs and all, and what I've want you to think about, I'm going to continue to put some, you're going to have to sit down.
I'm listening. Very good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm listening.
And just to be quick about it, I could use a investigator or a detective. But lots of issues that, follow-up stuff, that legwork that we need for cases and follow up on, when dealing with these tax foreclosures on property, I need sometimes I need someone to go and look and check on things, figure out who's on the property and all. Also, I'm gonna be looking for a retired police officer. Now, feel free to go ahead and interrupt while I'm,
Emily, you're in this too.
yeah, I'm trying to help you.
I'm listening.
Okay,
Multitasking.
and, but Johnny can't, that's the reason, you're talking to. No, and we also could use Brenda in the occupational tax. She's doing a lot of follow-up and collecting more than we used to, but we could, in locating some of these subs and all that are in and out of the county that don't pay our occupational tax, we could use somebody that can go, and especially a retired officer, can go and make contact and determine who they are, and so that we can collect that occupational tax as well, because I have to tell you, there's some that are slipping by that we aren't collecting from. And I think once we get the checking, that'll make them, more of them honest, and it'll help everyone.
That's not going on a wild goose chase. I know we consider doing that in Calvert City because the industry and the people that come in and out of there.
Part of it.
And when we
It's
did
tough.
that and looked at it, it wasn't cost effective
Well-
to do that because you're still gonna, some of the honest people are gonna do it and,
Well, that's a reason that I could make this not a full-time position for that part, but I have other duties. And, this could benefit Calvert, it could benefit the school board, because school board collects as much more than anybody. And I might even be able to get some funding there too for this. So all I'm asking you is I want to plant that seed. I'm going to do some more follow-up and put some numbers together in possibly creating this position. And like I say, I've got the law regarding hiring former officers and all, and we can save some money there. Plus, I think that type of person is the experience we need for both spots. So,
Okay.
that's brief.
You signed my.
I don't think you have to. He said we didn't have to. We just get up and leave.
What? No, I want to go over something with you.
Okay.
I need to fess up.
You want me to walk around and talk to them while you're doing it?
Sure. Because I'd like for them to be distracted and not listen
You
very
hurt
well.
his feelings.
He did, yeah, that's a pet peeve I have.
Hey Denise, while this is going
I
on,
didn't
show your
intend to cause
grandbaby on
such a
camera
ruckus.
there.
I thought I
Why-
would just sneak the
As a
basket and
commercial.
get what I needed.
You know, I've sat here and politely listened to Doc all day, and I start talking, and he's stretching and leaving.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
All right. take off.
Okay, all right, you will notice a little more than halfway down on here. I kept thinking through this budget process, I was like, something is not right with my carryover. Like, we have too much money in the bank for this to be our actual carryover. So I've been, when I've had time to inspect it, I've tried to look into it, and I was looking at one-time purchases and looking at last year's receipts and disbursements, and I found it last Tuesday or Wednesday. I found what it was. In my carryover spreadsheet, I take whenever I start this process, usually it's the February 28th book balance, and from the current year we're in. Well, when I pulled up that and started entering on it, I never replaced the February 28th, 2016 numbers with our February 28th, 2017 book balances. So it has created a much larger cushion than we originally had. I didn't want this to seem sinister or that it was hidden. It is honest to God, I didn't change that cell. And I thought, well, maybe it was just on the road fund because that's where I found it. No, I was consistent with the error. So,
We had a meeting and we were discussing carryover. And if you look at, and that's when it was identified, if you look at 9,200, 9990, you'll see the general fund reserves, which is updated in total,
Where's that now? What number?
Right above the gray line,
Okay.
right below.
right below the
Yeah.
gray line.
yeah, above is how I got to that, below is new totals.
So we put the general fund reserve at 3.2 million. If you look at the road fund reserve at 575, and then the jail fund reserve at 115, 911 fund reserves at 52.9, it gives you an updated total reserve of 3.9 million.
Is that gonna hold through the end of the month, or?
Good, and unless that we do a lot of reconstruction within a few days out at the road department. There's a lot,
That's
this
some of
is
that dollars are-
123 that we
Yeah.
amended in, or are amending in.
Wendy, talking to Wendy, there's some, as y'all know, you start something and something else piles in, so I'm sure we'll have to deal with something else.
Okay, there's some other, okay.
But I will say, about the past 2 years, and especially this fiscal year, the department heads and have done a great job. I mean, you guys can see it in the numbers. Everybody has pulled their fair share, managing their budgets. We had projected, I think, 1.7 in reserves last year, and we managed that. That when I say we, the department heads managed that to where we have 1.5 in reserves that we earmarked for projects. And then over the course of 2 years, we end up with 3.9 million. So that is,
Those are hard, fast dollars in reserve.
yes.
Those will be
Well,
what you
or
see
a
carryover, that's gonna, and I don't have that, I've got what I increased it by on there. But, those reserves won't be quite totally hard, fast dollars, all of them. But the carryover that we will start with July 1 are all hard, fast dollars, the actual dollars in the bank.
What are the hard, fast reserves? I don't have to tell me now, just.
Well, I'll show you
I'm
where
ready
to
go
find
home
them.
too, I know you are.
Back, go through until you get to, be the very last. You've got a cover page, and then one of 19, and then it starts in one of 7. So it'll be on the receipts side here. Towards the bottom of the fund, there's a 4901, cash balance July 1. General funds anticipated 900,000,
At 100,000?
9,
What now?
900,000 general fund.
900,000 of hard, fast, that's hard, fast dollars, okay, 900
Those
for
are gonna be dollars
general.
in the bank.
Okay.
Road fund, 840. Jail fund, 220. That's assuming the state pays us as they should, and they have been. And then 911 fund, 30. Occupational tax, 5 million.
So that's at least $2 million in hard. Yes, I mean, that's excellent.
1,500
That's very good, very good.
I apologize for the oversight. I was very irritated with myself about it, but it's the way it was, it's what happened.
Did you get a comment or anything on what you had talked about?
No. No.
There was an
Well-
there was an adjournment.
You know,
He just
that-
planted
that-
the seed, he
but that-
said.
When we're talking that kind of numbers, you know,
I will say that, I mean, to make, if the
That can be a
salary,
problem.
Yeah, yeah.
if we can come up with
No,
a
I
salary
heard
amount that is reasonable, it wouldn't take
I've said that can be a
much.
problem when we have lots
It
of
wouldn't take many
reserves.
accounts to
Well,
pull in
yeah,
many.
and
Everybody
make up for
decides
that.
they've got something we need
gotta
to
hang
do.
on to
I
that.
didn't make any.
We got,
Yeah, I'm trying.
you picked the right
right,
time to do
I
it.
understand, absolutely.
Y'all have any other questions?
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, we're good.
Thank y'all for
Okay,
your
what
hard
about
work.
before we adjourn, what about, or not adjourn, whatever we do, what about the 19th meeting? There, you know, there might be questions that come up. Can we
We've
address
got that one set for any last minute.
Yeah,
I mean,
We're scheduled for 8 o'clock on the 19th.